Hey everybody, welcome into the back room. I'm Andy Ostroy. Yes, we are still on vacation week, but there's some big breaking news today and a bunch of other things happening this week, so I thought I'd hop on the mic real quick and spend a few minutes talking about them. So let's start with the major news out today. The Supreme Court finally announced its ruling on Trump's tariff policy, ruling in a 6-3 decision that the tariff policy is illegal, unconstitutional. This is a huge loss for Trump, a major setback. And the reason it's the biggest loss for him, because this is his shiny toy. This is the thing he loves to play with the most. This is what he spends so much of his time on. This is the thing that he uses to threaten world leaders, that he uses as a weapon when he doesn't like the attitude of world leaders, when he wants to have Brazil lay off the prosecution of his corrupt buddy Bolsonaro, when he wants to strong-arm and coerce the European Union to back his plan to take over Greenland. Like, this is not an emergency, which is what he claims these tariffs are always used for. There's no emergencies. None of these tariffs that he's levied on these countries have anything to do with what's best for the United States, whether politically, diplomatically, economically. It's all in service to one maniac who likes to wield them as weapons. And thankfully, the Supreme Court ruled against him. This is a very long-awaited decision, much anticipated decision, and a very consequential decision, because the language in the Constitution is very clear. And the Constitution grants the power of taxation solely to Congress, not the executive branch, to Congress. And tariffs are taxes because, contrary to what Trump has always claimed, it's not countries who pay tariffs. It's American importers or foreign exporters, or both, and the American consumer. So it's a tax. And, we always hear about strict constitutionalists, on the court, the justices who look at the letter of the law, how the founding fathers wrote the Constitution. That's how they interpret a lot of their cases. Well, this one was very clear, as I said before. Congress gets to tax, not the executive. So Trump is claiming that, he's got other options for how he's going to implement these tariffs going forward. But the fact is, the highest court in the land just ruled them illegal. Now it gets complicated because what happens to all the money that's been collected so far, right? All these companies, Walmart, Target, just pick your company. They've all paid tariffs in one way or another. What happens to that money? Does it have to be returned? Well, yeah, it was illegally charged. How is that going to work? So there's a lot of things that we're going to see coming down the pike soon in terms of these challenges and how they're going to be implemented and executed over the coming months or perhaps years. I mean, think about, how is the United States government going to figure out who gets what, especially this corrupt government. And then in other news today, the GDP, the gross domestic product, showed that the U.S. economy grew at a slower pace than expected in the fourth quarter of 2025, growing at an annualized rate of just 1.4%, and 2.9% was expected. For the year, the economy grew 2.2%, which is a slowdown from the 2.8% growth that the economy experienced in 2024 when Joe Biden was president. So it's not been a good morning for Donald Trump. I mean, by 10 a.m., he had two big pieces of very shitty news. Also, it comes at a time when Trump is under fire, when everything around him is not going his way, when he seems to be imploding, when he seems desperate, panicked, and flailing. Inflation is at a 21-month high. This is a guy who said, put me in office, I'll bring down inflation, I'll bring down grocery prices. The job market is slowing. He's an utter failure. Everything's happening the opposite of the way he said it would and the way he promised, because his focus is to play strongman all over the world. So he needs a distraction. He needs an Epstein distraction. The Epstein shitstorm is a giant fucking boulder that's rolling down a hill, and he's running away from it desperately, and he can't get out of its way. So let's talk about Epstein. This week, Prince Andrew arrested. This is the first time in about 450 years that a member of the royal family was arrested and would face prosecution. This is huge news, but it's really huge news because the Brits are doing what we can't and what we won't, because our Department of Justice and our Attorney General, Pam Bondi, are corrupt, and they're in the pocket of a corrupt president. So what we're experiencing is the greatest cover-up. Literally, I think this is the greatest cover-up in American history, because if all the facts came out in the Epstein scandal, I think it would bring down the Trump administration. And I happen to personally believe those facts will eventually come out, and it will bring down the Trump administration. And one of the ways it may come down is because countries like the UK are investigating in ways we're not. Now, they're not investigating Prince Andrew for his misconduct in the Epstein scandal. They're investigating him for his misconduct in office. So I think the Brits are going to uncover a whole heap of shit that's not going to be good for Donald Trump and his rich pals who are Epstein's co-conspirators. The other thing that came out this week is that after reviewing the Epstein files, New Mexico's Attorney General Raul Torres has reopened that state's investigation into allegations of illegal activity at Jeffrey Epstein's former Zorro ranch. And there are allegations, there are emails in the Epstein files that claim that there are bodies of 2 foreign girls buried outside that property. So what's interesting is that we're starting to see states like New Mexico open their own investigation. Investigations are happening, people. They're happening. Whether Donald Trump and Pam Bondi like it or not, they are happening. And they are going to uncover shit. It's going to take some time. You know, this kind of a scandal doesn't unravel overnight. Bringing down a presidency doesn't unravel overnight. We have Watergate to look at as an example of how long it took. So shit's happening, and shit's getting real. And the more people that get exposed, the more people that are going to sing and spill the beans on others who they know may be implicated in these heinous acts of sex trafficking of minors. And so it's going to get very, very interesting. But we can rest assured that Donald Trump, as Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt always says, he is the most transparent president ever. And in that vein, this week he released the UFO files. He released the UFO files. So now we're getting all the information on UFOs and aliens. So he's released the JFK files. He's released the Martin Luther King Jr. files. He's released the fucking Penske file from Seinfeld. He's releasing all kinds of files, except the one fucking set of files that he promised for a year to release. Put me in office. Give Republicans control of Congress, and we will bring down the deep state cabal of rich, powerful, elite Democrat pedophiles who were sex trafficking minors. We will put these perverts in prison. So MAGA goes out, puts him in the White House, gives Congress to Republicans, and then the administration says, nothing to see here, folks. Move on. There's no co-conspirators to prosecute. That's it. We're done. Goodbye. Don't forget to tip your waiters and your waitresses on the way out. What the fuck is that? And so that's why MAGA is pissed off. MAGA is splintering. That's why he fell out with Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's why there are Congress people like Ro Khanna and Republican Thomas Massie that are relentlessly pursuing accountability and justice. And that's not going to stop. Because he made the promise. He created this fucking scandal. He created the Epstein files. Pam Bondi stood before us in February and said, I have the Epstein files and the Epstein list on my desk. And she pointed to her desk. 2 months ago, Congress, in a virtual unanimous bipartisan vote, passed the Epstein Transparency Act. It ordered the Department of Justice within 30 days to release the full files. It took them almost 2 months to release just half. There are 3 million more files that have yet to be released. One has to ask why. Why are they keeping those files? What is in those files? Because we know from the 3 million that were already released, with all the fucking redactions of the guilty, that, you know, the Transparency Act mandated that the Department of Justice release the files and redact the names of the victims, not the guilty. So what happened? The victims' names were exposed. Their personal information, like their addresses, were exposed. Photos of them, some of them nude, were exposed and unredacted. But the men who Epstein emailed about underage girls, about torture, about this or that, all these crazy fucking emails that we see, the names of the people who received them or sent them are blacked out. Why? Why? Les Wexner, the billionaire businessman who Victoria's Secret, why is his name blocked out? He was named in the Epstein files by the FBI as a co-conspirator. Why is his name blacked out? So what are they hiding? What are they hiding? Why won't Trump release the files he said he would? If he's so innocent, how could he claim he's exonerated if half of the files are still not released? So it's all just the biggest, greatest cover-up in American history. And I guarantee you, it is not going away. It is getting worse for Donald Trump and his cronies every single day. So not a great week for Donald Trump, not a great morning for Donald Trump. So stay tuned. We're going to go back to our vacation, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. This episode was produced and edited by me, Andy Ostroy. It was co-produced by Matty Rosenberg and Jen Hammoud for Radio Free Rhiniecliff, with additional editing by Matty Rosenberg, music by Andrew Hollander, and graphic design by Cricket Lengyel. And with a special thanks to our sponsor, The Epicurean. Again, thanks for listening. Please rate and review wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe to the Backroom with Andy Ostroy YouTube channel, where you can watch full videos of our interviews. See you next time.